Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. Today, I have an awesome guest. He is a real estate investor, serial entrepreneur, podcast host, and business coach. He's well known in helping property investors get between 8% to 18% ROI, that's return on investment, through multi-unit residential properties. Welcome, Jonathan Wright, and thank you for being on my show.
Thanks, Athin. Thank you very much for having me here. Much appreciated.
Awesome. It's so awesome to have you here, and I'm sure we're going to provide amazing value for all the listeners and watchers here today. So, you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Well, okay, there's a long way and a short way to get there, but I'll keep it short. Essentially, after graduating high school, I went straight into the military. I was in for 15 years in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Served, a couple of tours, did a wide variety of different jobs and occupations, and really built up a massive resume. And then when I retired from the military, I did a few stints. I was an auditor for a brief period of time for companies like Volkswagen and Shell. And then after that, I really transitioned into a bit of another stint in Hollywood, where I was producing a documentary out of Paramount Pictures. And then I decided, okay, well, I want to something a little bit more full-time, a little bit more, comprehensive. And I started to look into real estate very, very quickly. And I started to really build some steam in that. And, after attending a couple of seminars, after taking a little bit of training, after meeting JT Fox and bring him on board as a coach, I started to have the vision that, I think this can work. So then I started to formulate a plan. I started, putting offers out, started building my teams, and span of 2 years, I've closed, I think we're up to 81 deals now. So, it's just been a massive growth scale. And the key to that is, really building that fundamental knowledge, and then getting the right coach and getting the right partners, and then just taking off and, seeing the opportunity that's out there. So that's, in a snippet, that's been my journey for the last, 20 years.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great, interesting beginnings of, where you started there. And then it's interesting that, whatever path we go down, which is always different, we always sort of have epiphany moments or something like that and look at what opportunities lie to us. And I think, by what you've said and the short amount of time that you've done so many deals, it's a testament to, you really focusing and going, this is what I'm going to do, and creating the results and like that. So that's amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people can, draw on that of some inspiration of, what's possible when you do really, do the work basically on that and have the right people, obviously, and partners helping you out there. So, if we talk along the property side of things, which is obviously where you're doing a lot of focus now, you're based in Nova Scotia in Canada. Are there differences with investing in Nova Scotia specifically, right, compared to like other areas of Canada? And if so, what are they?
Well, the fundamentals of real estate don't change no matter where you are in the world, but every market has their own little quirks to them. So a number of different things are a little bit different out here in Atlantic Canada, whether it's Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, primarily where I operate, than the rest of Canada. You need to look at it from the point of view of what it would be like, operating in a small town where everybody knows everybody. Now apply that mentality to even the big cities out here. And that's really what makes the difference, is that when you're operating here, people want to meet you face to face. When you're doing deals, when you're negotiating, they want to see who you are. They want to meet you. They want to shake your hand. Even during this COVID stuff, they still want to shake your hand. And that's really ingrained in the culture here. So for people that are from outside of this area trying to invest in, they don't speak the same language. So it's harder for them to connect. And yes, they can still do business. Yeah, they can still be successful. But if you're in this market, if you have these boots on the ground out here in Atlantic Canada, it makes all the difference, because you build that connection, you build that reputation. And now we're getting to the point where there are a lot of, portfolio holders, a lot of tired landlords that reach out to us first and present the deals to us first without even putting them on the market. Or even if they are on the market, they will sell it to us for sometimes $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 less than to someone else, because they know we will actually not only follow through with the deal, but they know us personally. They know our reputation. They believe in us. So that makes all the difference out here. So really, it comes down to the culture that makes a difference in real estate investing.
Yeah, no, I love it. Really great points. And I think that's actually quite relevant in business in general, right? Where you've got to understand if you're going into a new market, whether it's a city or an area or even a country, what are the differences locally? What is the culture? Is it like, obviously countries can be widely, but even within a country, like Canada, like you said, is it a small town mentality? Is it bigger, city mentality? Is it all these other little factors? And that's really how you can connect and differentiate yourself and actually getting those over the line because you understand how they work. So yeah, really awesome points there, Jonathan, and for people to think that it's not only relevant to property, this is relevant to business as well, but probably
Absolutely.
more so for property like that. So and I guess, so you obviously do a lot of different investing in Canada. Do you also invest in other countries as well? And why, I guess, those ones? And
Well, we do have some investments in the US, although we haven't focused most of our efforts there simply because the opportunities in our own backyard are so plentiful. But I do invest in businesses outside of Canada, absolutely. So through my diversification, even outside of real estate, I don't stay within the Canadian borders. I invest worldwide.
yeah, awesome. And yeah, I think that's really important for anybody to just, not stay in their lane type of thing like that. It's like, okay, what are the opportunities? Be open to looking at other areas and like you said, finding somebody local. Like if I to myself, I'm in Sydney, it's like I don't know the local markets in Nova Scotia, Canada, or something like that, or even in Canada in general, right? You're likely one of the experts, if not one of the top experts there, right? So it's like, okay, let's speak to Jonathan and go, what can I do? What opportunities do you have? Can you sort of speak to me about what investment options could, we work together on? And then that way, you're not just going in by yourself and trying to do it all. And that's, I think really important for everybody as well.
Absolutely. And that's really been the key for a lot of investors that have been wanting to invest in Atlantic Canada is actually partnering with me or other people here in the market. Because if you're coming from outside of this part of the country, even if you're within Canada and you're investing into the East Coast, if you're not here, if you didn't actually take the time to come here and meet the people, then you're not going to be taken seriously because they're going to be looking at you going, well, if you're not even going to take the time to visit us, to see us, why would I do business with you? So that's really been the key here and how it's been so easy for me to bring a lot of investors in because we establish these partnerships and then I'm basically the face of the company, representing our interests, representing our vision in person with these individuals throughout Atlantic Canada. And really that's been the key out here is to have that face-to-face contact to build that relation. And again, that's key. So, and I would say that matters in just about any market that you're investing in. You want to have a partner or some representation of your company or your interest in that market, because that way you'll be able to maintain the pulse on your business that much more.
Yeah, really, really awesome points there. And I think it, really showcases the power of relationships. Like I think relationships are
Yeah.
basically anything in business and investing, right? Without that, you're not going to be able to find the investors if you need investors. You're not going to be able to find the deals if you need the deals, or just in general connect to other people that whether they could be clients or whatever like that. So it's really important to do that and then work out, okay, what is it that how we can help each other, I guess, in a relationship, right? It's do that and I guess you've got an interesting type of model and how and I guess because you've got a lot of different types of partners in that, so you sort of I guess finding out mutual things where you can help each other and then bringing them on board sort of under your umbrella. Is that sort of how it's working, or
Well, yes and no. Every partnership is a little unique. It's structured a little bit differently. And when I establish a partnership, a lot of it is about building our mutual goals. So different partners will have different goals. They'll grow at different rates, and they'll have different, focuses that they'll want to emphasize on at one stage or another. So the advantage of having multiple partners is that you're helping so many other people along their journey to growing wealth and to becoming successful. So like, for one partner, for example, their primary goal was to retire from their day job. So, we build that partnership with that in mind, and that was the goal. Whereas another partner is just a way to diversify their wealth. So again, by having multiple partners, you're going through multiple different experiences along with them, because a partnership is really a journey. and your life journey is what it is. But by bringing different partners on board, you're kind of going along with their journey as well. So it really enriches yourself as well as growing your wealth, because you're experiencing it one aspect of their journey along as well, and it's great for personal growth. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. I really love that. You know, that journey thing. It is all about the journey, definitely. And so if we go into a little bit, I know, you know, I know you like the specifics of things. So if we go into a little bit more specifics, what, I guess, what types of property do you you know, invest in, and why?
Well, the simple answer is we invest in anything as long as the numbers work. It all comes down to the numbers, and I'm a numbers guy. So, you know, that's really what tickles my fancy. But you know, we invest in commercial properties, in multi-unit residential, single-family homes. We do flips. A lot of our strategies focus on buy and hold because the rental market here is extremely hot right now. The vacancy rates are next to nil. There's a lot of people coming into Atlantic Canada because, one, you know, the COVID crisis is not as bad out here. You know, we have a state of emergency, and we're sitting at, I think, 32 cases today throughout the province. So, I mean, we don't want to have hot zones. We actually know where every single positive case is in the province. So, you know, people look at this and go, okay, well, that's a, you know, safer place to live, you know, in a COVID world. But even outside of that, they're looking at the East Coast as, you know, a much more temperate area. Like, we're in the middle of winter right now, and there's no snow on the ground. So, you know, it's a very comfortable and very positive area to live in. So we're seeing so many people, even within Canada, starting to move out here. So you take Halifax, the city that's in the background behind me, the population grew 2% in the last 12 months, which is a significant growth for a city in a 12-month period. And we're continuing to see that trend. So, you know, when I see that and I say, okay, we have the population growth, we have all these people coming into the East Coast, and it's the same throughout Atlantic Canada, but there's simply not enough housing. So that is essentially feeding the rental market very, very significantly, which is why we focus on holding properties, because the cash flow is absolutely amazing. And that's how we really generate our revenue and how we build a business model. But a lot of it really comes down to building those teams on the ground that's going to allow you to get these deals, these buildings or these properties at a basically an excellent bargain in order to get the return on investment and be able to return the capital to the investor. So then there are a lot of pieces that really feed into this to make it work and make it as effective as it is. But ultimately, it comes down to, you know, what strategy works best for that specific deal. So sometimes we decide to hold, or sometimes we decide to flip. Again, it all depends on the numbers, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's all really a numbers game.
Yeah, definitely. So important. Really love, so amazing points there. And I think the one that you know, stood out to me a little bit more is about the trends, right? Is understanding trends, you know, in business and investing and stuff like that. You talked about, okay, you know, it's a great area where it is. There's no rentals because of X, Y, Z. People are moving here, so you're looking at numbers in a different sense, and, you know, seeing, okay, it makes sense, you know, to focus on, you know, the long term holds more, you know, overall, depending on the numbers, of course, because of the trend. And, you know, following trends is, you know, especially if you're before it or during it, can be, you know, very, you know, lucrative in terms of, you know, what you do there. So I don't know, are there any other trends in general? It doesn't have to necessarily be property or business or anything else that you're seeing around the place that, you know, could provide opportunities for people as well?
Well, every trend essentially links into others. I mean, everything is sort of connected and interconnected. So like you were talking about numbers, for example, we're talking numbers maybe at a slightly higher level, but those numbers really trickle down to each individual property eventually. So when you're looking at the trends, when you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at the big scale, and then you're sort of breaking it down to the individual property. Okay, so I mean, everything is connected in that sense, but it's also connected in between industries. So with all the populations coming in, all the immigration coming in, we're becoming more and more multicultural on the East Coast. So now we're starting to see specialty restaurants start to open up. So, you know, 10 years ago, you couldn't find a decent Greek restaurant. Now they're starting to open up. So again, it's all about seeing these trends and taking a look at what's happened historically in other cities when they went through this transition, and then start projecting what might happen here. So, you know, you look at some of the larger cities in Canada, like Toronto, Montreal, when they started getting the mass immigration, when they became more and more multicultural, what happened to those cities? And then you take a look here and you start to see the seeds of those trends happening. So, like I said, specialty stores, specialty restaurants, a lot of small businesses struggling in pretty much worldwide. But here in Atlantic Canada, because COVID hasn't shut us down quite as much, small business hasn't been hit as hard. I personally, visited a lot of these shops, been really hands-on trying to see where these trends are going. And in fact, these businesses are thriving right now because, again, they're not being shut down, things, and with everything being more multicultural. Like, for example, my wife was Chinese. We see these, specialty Asian stores opening up left and right. There's a new one almost every other week, it feels like. So what we're seeing right now is really the flourishing of specialized stores multiculturally, and really that's starting to really feed the economy. So now that's allowed us to sort of, apply that to a real estate business where we can, okay, well, if we're going to buy a property that might have a commercial space in it, it might be a viability depending on the location, depending on the culture in the area. So now we start paying attention to, what types of cultures are in the area, what types of demand, and what is missing. So if we find that there's a really strong Middle Eastern culture in a particular area, is there any Middle Eastern specialty stores? If not, that might be an opportunity. So you start building the relationships with that culture. At first, they are tenants, but eventually we might start building a relationship with them, as a culture as a whole, and then we'll start to feel that demand, and then we'll be able to see the opportunity from there. So that, again, it all comes down to being hands-on in the market and really feeling those opportunities as they come up. And day to day, it's different opportunities in different areas. So, that's an aspect that I feel, really being on the ground, essentially going, property to property, seeing the deals, walking through the towns, walking through the cities. That to me is extremely evident. Now, on a larger business scale, Canada as a whole is really trying to become a lot more green, a lot more energy efficient. And we're starting to see a lot of those industries start to flourish here in Atlantic Canada. In particular, what most people don't realize is off the coast of Nova Scotia and the Bay of Fundy have the highest tides in the world. So what universities are doing is starting to produce electricity using essentially tidal energy, which could, if properly harnessed, could power essentially the entire country off of that one bay. That's how much water there is. Because every time the tide comes in or out, we're talking about 118 billion tons of water coming in and out of the Bay of Fundy. Well, that's a massive amount of water. That's a massive amount of energy. So now we're starting to become a little bit more creative in finding environmentally sound ways to generate power. So the East Coast is really starting to stand out a lot more in the eyes of the rest of Canada than it has historically. So it's sort of been the forgotten area of Canada for so long, and that's why the property values have stayed so low for so long, essentially appreciating in line with inflation. Now all of a sudden, property values are jumping up 10, 15, 20% very, very quickly, because now all the attention is on Atlantic Canada, because this is where the biggest change is happening in the country right now, and we're at the very, very early stages of it, which is even more reason why we're investing out here, is because we see where this is going in the next 5 or 10 years. So, you just drive into Halifax, you see cranes everywhere. So you stand anywhere in the city, you look around, you got 9, 10 cranes in visibility at any point in the city. So if the money's coming here, the growth is coming here. So this is the place to be.
Yeah, that was an amazing segment there, and I think it really showcases your knowledge about looking at like macroeconomics and microeconomics, right, on the different levels. And I think a lot of business owners and people, it's easy for us to get stuck in the day to day, right? Like we're busy, all right, next deal, and things like that. But sometimes we need to take that day or a few hours or whatever, take that little bit of a step back and say, okay, what's actually happening right now? Because where I'm focusing my energy may be getting good returns, may not be, whatever it is, but there may be a lot better, opportunities in other things that we're not thinking about right now. So that's where you need to take that seat back and go, wait a minute, okay, and just like, those things that you were mentioning, going, there might be certain cultures moving in here. How can we align with what we're doing and stuff like that, and where other opportunities are. And then that way, as you said, you can get in before it starts to jump 15 to 20%, where possible. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still always good deals and opportunities even when it's jumping. But if you can get in earlier, then you just, you get bigger returns as well. So that's really it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. I mean, when I'm coaching other business owners, that's almost consistently the main problem, is that they're really working in their business, not on their business. And I see that again and again, and especially now with things not shutting down, them, people being busier than ever, the business is there, the customers are coming in, so they're so focused on maximizing the returns on the day to day, they don't take the step back. Now that might work next, 12 months, but what happens next? So if you don't take the step back, if you don't actually look at the big picture, you can't innovate. You can't adapt. You can't, modify how you do your business. You can't build an ecosystem. You really can't take full advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you because you can't see it. So, that's the biggest challenge I'm seeing with people in businesses right now. And that's pretty much the same everywhere, but it's even more prevalent now because of the opportunities available.
Yeah, so true. And this is really, I guess, the power of coaching, right? Business coaching and things like that, having them ourselves or being one ourselves as we are, because it really forces you in a good way is probably a good way that I say it, to say, hey, have you thought of this? Do this now. And, take this step back or focus on these areas, from someone that's got more knowledge, that's been, further down the line than us of where we're at in our journey. And that can really help us, because sometimes, we want to build that innovation mindset. Obviously, that's the entrepreneurial thing. You need to constantly do that, because if you just keep doing the same thing, eventually, the markets are going to change and things like that. And you're not going to be getting, the great returns or, revenue and profit that you originally did. So that's really, I guess it is. And yeah, so I'm interested to hear, with you, importance of, coaches and mentors and everything in your life.
Oh, for me, it's made all the difference. It's made all the difference because I've noticed it both as a coach and being coached. It it allows you to get a third party point of view that are not, involved or necessarily directly invested in whatever it is you're doing. So by having that independent third party, that objective third party, it provides a unique perspective that you never have on your own. So coaching is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. The fact that I've had JT with me from the very, very early stages has made all the difference, because not only has JT provided the guidance and the advice along the way that allowed me to make minor adjustments, just very, very minor course corrections in my business that at the time didn't seem obvious. In fact, I was completely against it. And then, after having a conversation with JT, I said, okay, well, now I'm going to pivot just a little bit. It's not enough to necessarily be totally scary or totally be transformational, but it allowed me to just shift enough to have the opportunities to really start flowing in. So, that's been the first aspect. And also being around a coach that has, the following and the connections that JT has made all the difference, because it's allowed me to be introduced to so many different partners that have allowed me to scale my business 10, 15, 20 times more than it would have without having the coach. So the coach for me made the world of difference, because I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be speaking to you today if it wasn't for JT. So you can see the value, just sitting from me being coached. And again, it's the same thing with the people that I do coach. It allows them to get a unique perspective they wouldn't otherwise get on their own. So, it's very important, even, once you start getting coached and you start building, your business and you start becoming successful, that's one of the first things you can do to give back, is to provide that knowledge and wisdom to someone else. Even if you don't have the financial means to do so, it all comes down to giving back. And now that you've built that success, everyone to some degree should be a coach to someone else at some point, because that's how we spread the wealth. It's really, the wealth is in the knowledge, not necessarily in the dollars in the sense. It's in the knowledge. So spread that knowledge, spread that experience that you've acquired. Very important.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree with you there. Amazing words. And JT is, he's been amazing with me. I haven't necessarily known him as long as you, but it's been, probably a bit over a year now with me. But it's definitely just little things, like you said. It's like focus on this, do these types of things, and then things, it starts to come to fruition more. And then as you get stuff along the way as well, and like you said, the connections. We wouldn't be doing this today if it wasn't for him and connecting through there. And he's. I think it's testament to JT, because he had a crazy schedule, right, of traveling like 330 days a year or something like that to a different city every day. It was crazy, right? I don't think anybody else could do that schedule of what he used to do. And now, because of COVID, he's stopped down. But that has allowed him to do is build so many networks and connections from all over the world, right? Because he was in, over 50 countries and over like 90 or something that he has clients in. So it's massive when you have a network like that. And then now I think it really shows the benefit, right? Because we're in this world now where we're very Zoom focused. It's like, okay, let's connect. And, whether it's coaching calls, whether it's deals, whether it's just, other things of just connecting with people to see where opportunities are, it's great to be part of that. And then now, we really just seeing where it flows from there.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're really all benefiting from the efforts and the time that JT put in. Again, like you said, traveling worldwide, making all these connections. And then what really allows JT to stand out is that he shares his connections with everyone else, which a lot of these people don't. A lot of people, who are on these stages, they sell their product or whatever it is they do, their service. And then, it's all about themselves at the end of the day. Whereas for JT, he really measures his success and how successful he makes other people. So, and I see that every single day with so many people, growing their businesses, expanding their businesses, becoming more successful, and really achieving their dreams, their visions. And that's how he measures the success. So, when you're surrounded by people like that, it's so much of a refreshing experience around people who experience this and who've been with JT, because it allows us to stay in a positive environment. And that's really the most important thing right now, is stay with positive people, people have a positive outlook on life, people that are always moving forward, no matter what trying times they're going through, especially in times like this. This is a Zoom world right now, but we're still moving forward because we still have that end goal in mind. Things will eventually open up. The world will eventually go back to some sense of normal, but we're still pushing through. We're not sitting down and waiting for things to happen. We're seeking out opportunities. And again, whether it's an interview, whether it's a real estate deal, whatever those opportunities are, it's important that you constantly push forward, always move forward.
Yeah, definitely. So important. And it goes back as a summary to, like you said, to help others, that contribution, right? Where it's like, okay, JT does that immensely, right? He's one of the only people that allows his clients like us to go on stages and be interview celebrities and be on like that as well. Nobody else does that in the world. And other areas where he whether it's experiences and stuff like that, he brings clients along. And I think that that really should go deep into us and go, okay, how can we do that to our clients? How can we benefit our clients, as well, and pass on that same culture, so to speak, of JT. He's got the family first of, treating everyone like family. It's like, we can all benefit. And whether or not, it doesn't have to be necessarily monetary, but helping other people out, and connecting people, it always comes back to us. I think, the universe has a way, of reciprocating, things like that, and really powerful in that types of things like that as well. So I definitely implore everybody to have that mindset of how can I help other people, add value, connect people, whatever it is in that way, give back, like you said, potentially become a coach in some relevant area or mentor or whatever it is there at some point with their experience, because what I tell my clients a lot of the time is that the coach really, in general, if you're starting out, only has to be one step ahead of the rest, right? Of the client, at least one step ahead. You don't have to be the JT Fox that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to be a business coach, right? If you've got a business coach, you're making six figures, multiple six figures, you got multiple businesses, whatever it is, if someone's just starting out, you can help them, right? Because you're already further down the track, right? Or maybe they're just in an early stage in their business. So, and I think, someone like you, and you've had some amazing experiences, back then as well with your mindset. I think, with having those things when you were younger would also help, like that as well to pass on to your clients too.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's gone through a different journey to get to where they are, and everyone has value to provide to others. Whether you realize it or not, you have value. And really what that journey through life is partially to discover what that value is. Some of us realize it fairly early on. We become doctors, we become lawyers, we become successful business owners at a young age. But some people may not realize that until much later in life. And there's nothing wrong with that, because again, it's all about the journey. And when you discover what value you have to be able to deliver to other people, it is really just part of your journey. And different people experience that at different times, and that's perfectly fine. But yes, absolutely, returning to value is so important, and it does come back to you in some way, shape, or form. on a fairly consistent basis, especially if you are returning value to so many different people, whether it's business partners, whether it's clients, whether it's customers, whether it's people you're coaching, regardless of what it is, you will get something back. But it's not about what you get back, it's about what you give. And that's really the mindset you need to keep focused on, because anything you get back is really just a bonus. You got to treat it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing points there as well. Completely agree. And I guess if we just go back a little bit, because I know you are the numbers man, you, in terms of specifics, right? Like when we're looking at deals, whether it's property deals or even business deals, investments, and other things like that, are there certain things that you look for or don't look for, whether it's at a higher level of how you look at it in terms of how you're looking at the numbers or the opportunity and stuff like that, or even in terms of the specific types of numbers of, I guess, what to look for and not to look for, because you probably looked at a lot of things, you do a lot of investments yourself. I guess for the people that are, getting started and, maybe looking at what's a good deal or not, what are some little tips about things like, to look for and then to watch out for as well?
Well, the way I approach it is I start at high level and work my way down. So let's say I want to invest in a particular part of the country and I want to move into a specific city. Okay, whether I invest in that city or not really depends on a number of factors. I need to make sure that it's a healthy city to invest in. So I look at the economic drivers. What industries are operating there? Is the population growing? Is it shrinking? What are the trends? I'll actually visit the city. I'll go to the malls. What's the vacancy like in the shopping malls? What are the streets looking like? Are there a lot of boarded up buildings? Are there not? So I take a look at the big picture and sort of build a formula as to whether or not that's a good city to invest in. If not, then obviously I move on. But if it is, then I start going a little bit deeper and go, okay, what kind of opportunities are likely to be most successful in the city? It could be commercial real estate, it could be multi-unit residential, it could be flips. I take a look at the tenancy laws in that particular province and go, okay, how can that work for me? How can that work against? So I sort of build this whole mentality, this whole picture, and start putting all the pieces together. And I go, okay, this is how I'm going to invest in this particular market. And every single market has a bit of a different flavor to it. So some markets, I'll be more likely to sell a property at the end once I'm done refurbishing it and everything else, then I have to hold it because that market is more primed for a quick resale. And again, I build those metrics, and it's a lot of time building that. So yes, there's a lot of research that you have to do, sit down in front of a computer for, 2-3 hours researching the market, but it's also actually getting out and physically going into that market. So once you've built that full picture, then you have a really firm understanding of what you can expect to be able to do in that particular market. So you do your research to get the information, you physically go there to get the hands-on approach, and once you're able to combine the two, you'll start to be able to piece things together. And it's a little bit harder to explain when you haven't done it. So it's very important if it's something you're looking to get into and it's something you really want to start to explore for yourself, I would definitely get a coach who can actually explain to you exactly how to do that. So to sit down and say, okay, how do you do research? And then when you go to the market, maybe have your coach join you in the market, go through the market with your coach and go, okay, what opportunities are you seeing here? What are you seeing there? And you can sort of build that vision together in that particular market. And then it's now about implementing that vision. So you start building your teams on the ground. You start networking with people, finding out who are the key players, who are the best in their respective fields. You start putting everything together. You build a system, and the opportunities flow from there.
Yeah, really awesome points. I love that combined approach. It's not just being the keyboard warrior. You've also got to get out there as well and see what's going on in the market. So really love that. And just thinking about that, if we take a slight step back as well, I guess before that is getting a quality lead as well, right? In that process, because you'll get a lead or an opportunity and quality stuff then, and then you'll be doing your research and all the things you just mentioned. So if we go to the previous step, how do you look at getting quality leads to ensure you're getting, like an abundance of them and getting that with your network and stuff like that?
Okay, well, quality leads and abundance are two different things. So you got two different approaches there, okay? Quality leads really comes down to education. So the people providing you the leads need to understand what is a quality lead and what isn't. Otherwise, they're going to send you 99% garbage. And you're going to spend all your time sorting through the garbage to find that one, ounce of gold that's sitting there. So again, it all comes down to education at that point. And when it comes to quantity, that's about incentives. That's about, ensuring that those people bringing you the leads are motivated. Now, a lot of that comes down to financial, but really what they want to see is they want to see, a piece of the action. So whether it's a realtor, whether it's someone, basically driving up and down the neighborhoods, sending me opportunities, they need to get a piece of it. So whether it's a commission, whether it's a percentage of the deal, they need to know that as you're becoming successful, you're essentially making them successful along with you. Okay, so it's about bringing them onto your journey of success, and that applies to everyone. And it can get a little overwhelming at times, especially when you build a massive team of 100 plus people. It may seem a little overwhelming, but it's not so bad when you actually break it down to each individual relationship. Okay, and it's all about maintaining those relationships, staying engaged with these individuals. So you might have someone who may not send you a lead for 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's important to stay engaged because you always want to be at the top of their mind. Because sometimes, you may make them a few $1,000s, they'll love you for, a month, and then they'll forget about you. To constantly stay engaged with these individuals, you want to maintain those relationships because you never know when the next opportunity will strike them, and you want to make sure you're at the top of their list for them to send a deal to you. So again, that all comes down to abundance. It's about maintaining relationships. It's about keeping them engaged. It's about making sure that when you win, they win. So again, you have to maintain that whole ecosystem, that whole environment, and that's what you're doing as an entrepreneur. You're an environmental manager, and in this case, the environment is the team of people you have to bring the opportunities to you.
Yeah, I really love that. So many amazing points. And I guess one thing I'd probably just like to say is that, a lot of the people see entrepreneurs, everything they touch is gold and they're doing all these amazing things, but it's not always like that, right? When we're getting into everything like that. So, just to show that, we are human and there are challenges, many challenges. There's a lot of ups and downs in the journey. You want to maybe talk about one of your bigger failures or something like that, and how you sort of overcome that in your journey?
One of my biggest failures would be when I started. I would say it was in the first 6 months of investing. And that is when I relied too much on what people were telling me and not what they were actually doing. So in this case, it was a property management company. I was managing a couple of our properties, and they sounded really good on paper. They pitched a very good game. But when the numbers, weren't performing as they advertised, that's when I started to see, okay, something is not right. So at that point, they kept selling and they kept selling. And after, about 4 or 5 months, I said, okay, it's not adding up. I went out there and I started to realize that, it was all for show essentially. So, I've had property managers that were stealing from me. I had them, put in really bad tenants or claim that there was no tenant when there was a tenant, so they wouldn't have to, send me the rent. I mean, it was absolutely awful. So again, things that you learn and signs that you see when you start to build these relationships. Now that I'm more experienced, I can recognize this within 24 hours. But back then, I didn't see it right away. So I put too much faith in other people. So again, these are things that I've learned. And again, you're going to make mistakes along the way, and you learn more from your mistakes than you do from not making them. So, that mistake that I made when I was doing deals, in this case, I didn't have a partner. It was my own deal with some private lenders. But what I learned here was instrumental in going forward in my business. So don't be afraid of failure. Just learn from it, and then make sure you fail forward.
Yeah, I love that. And as JT says, trust but verify. Don't just go with what people are telling
Absolutely.
you. Do your own due diligence and check it out. So I love that.
Yeah.
So, we met at Mega Success where you genuinely connected with many people and you were happy to help others, where you could. You have a strong history of making great investments for yourself and for your clients, which I'm sure will continue in the future. So I'm very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to work with you in the future as well, Jonathan.
I look forward as well, Athin. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Jonathan. I'm sure many people have greatly benefited from your valuable wisdom. So how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Well, easiest way through social media. You can find me on Facebook easily enough. I can be reached through, WhatsApp, through WeChat, through email. I'm very, very easy to get a hold of. So It's usually not a problem. I'm always available and I respond pretty quickly.
Awesome. Find him at Jonathan Wright on social media, guys, if you're wanting to learn more about Jonathan and how he can help you. So, thank you everyone for watching and listening to the show where we talk about everything on business growth. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only who knows if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.